This video is brought to you by Sporlan. Quality, integrity, and tradition.
All right, today's an interesting one because they called me saying their walk-in freezer's at 30 degrees and the fans were not running. They did not want me to come out last night, so I came out the next morning today and the walk-in freezer is not quite completely down to temp, but the fans are running, so we're gonna have to go up onto the roof and try to troubleshoot an intermittent problem is what it seems like.
There's a condensing unit. Compressor's running. Sight glass looks to be clear.
Condenser fan motors are running. So we're just gonna have to go through everything. I'm gonna put some service gauges on this guy, check the defrost clock. All right, so everything is running at the time. Sight glass is clear. I confirmed that the head pressure control valve is currently bypassing, so I've got hot discharge gas. It shut off the flow coming out of the condenser, and it's bypassing refrigerant into the receiver to keep the head pressure up. So the system is running right now. It's 10 degrees in the box. You see the dry bulb temperature up there. I don't have any temperature clamps hooked up. Running a clear sight glass. We're just going to watch this thing operate for a few minutes. Time clock doesn't really, it's not too far off. Oh, it doesn't turn very well. It's kind of gummed up with dirt. It's about 8 a.m. right now. So we're just going to watch this thing operate for a bit and see if we see anything jump out at us that would make me think there's a problem. We're going to watch the cut in and cut out of the pressure control. Sometimes that can be an issue. Like I said, I think we're dealing with an intermittent problem here. So. So that's interesting. My system just pumped down. That and my low pressure control is not accurate because it's bringing the box tent or the box low side pressure down too low. So let's see what it turns back on at. We might have a temperature controller issue because it's only 10 degrees in the box, and we should be getting down to -10. They keep ice cream in this freezer. That's interesting. We're not in a defrost, so there's nothing there that caused that issue. Defrost clock's still in refrigeration mode. You can see by the green light right here. So I think we're pumped down. Alright, so it's certainly cold in here, just not cold enough. The temperature controller's back behind the box. I've seen these where they vibrate up in temperature, so I'm going to climb back there. So this temperature controller's back here. It looks like it's set for about 5 degrees. I'm going to try to adjust it and see where it clicks at. Yeah, that's what it is. And it's also going bad because it's cycling at -5 when it's +10 in here. So we're going to crank this guy down. See too that this control wasn't played with because it had this cap on it. It was a pain in the ass to get the cover off. So this happens from vibration over time. These things do this kind of junk. This actually looks like a factory control, to be honest with you. Don't think this has ever been changed before. So it is certainly getting colder now inside that box. I'm going to go ahead and watch it for a little bit and make sure it doesn't have something else going on, but I have a feeling it was just that temperature controller. But I am going to talk to them. I'm going to suggest replacing that control, putting a digital, mounting it on the wall so we don't have vibration issues. And then also, I'll adjust the pressure control right now, but I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and replace the pressure control also. because that thing's out of whack. But I mean, I can get by adjusting it, but you know, it's starting to go bad, so we'll do that. I'll be honest with you, this customer is like, they love to replace their equipment, so I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they say no and then just have us replace everything. But that's on them. They order their own equipment and get like crazy good prices and stuff, so they like to replace and then get a warranty with it and call it a day. So I also changed up the defrost. I don't know why. I put even defrost throughout the day, basically every 6 hours, and then I threw 1/2 hour defrost in the middle of the night. The X terminal's hooked up, so you know, they had a 45-minute defrost on here. I mean, I guess I could leave it at 45 minutes, but I don't know. I just forced a habit. I put them at half an hour. I mean, it is time and temperature terminated, so I guess 45 minutes really isn't going to make much of a difference because it's probably going to time out in 20 minutes. But so yeah, I'm just going to leave it at the half though. But like I said, I threw that extra one in the middle of the night. So I'm just watching this thing. This thing's tracking and keeping time so far, so we'll see. You know, I get a lot of questions about Graslin versus Paragon defrost clocks, and I honestly think both of them have good things and bad things. The Graslins are great because you can add these extra defrosts in the middle of the night. You can make, you know, the defrost as long as you want, so you can do an hour here, 10 minutes or 15 here, half hour, 45, you know, you can do all kinds of different stuffs. With the Paragons, you basically, you adjust the center dial to the defrost setting, and it's that for every defrost. The Paragons, usually what I do is I leave what's originally in there. Obviously this one used to be a Paragon, you can see by the bracket, and it's got the conversion kit to make it a Graslin. For whatever reason we did that. But I tend to leave. If I was to change this clock, unless I had a major issue with it being gummed up with sand, which this one has a little bit of dust, but it's not horrible, I would change to a Paragon, but I tend to lean towards the Graslins more if I have the option, just because I like them. I know a lot of people don't, but I really don't have that many problems with them.
So this was a service call on a walk-in freezer that wasn't working properly. But like I said in the beginning of the video, it was a little strange because they said it wasn't working at all, or it was really warm. When I got there, it was kind of half-assed working, okay? But I noticed it just wasn't quite cold enough inside the box, okay? Found that the unit's temperature controller was going bad, and that it sometimes happens on these ones where they mount the temperature controller on the coil. Over time, the vibration adjusts the control, but then also the setting on the control, like the control was going out of calibration also, because even when it was set at -5, it was only maintaining +10 inside the box, okay? So to compensate temporarily, I adjusted it colder, got the unit to come down to temperature, and then went to the customer with a big picture item list. And that customer actually decided to go ahead and replace that equipment like I had mentioned I thought they would. And we've already since changed that equipment over to new Heatcraft stuff that they supply. So got the unit operating. Another thing I wanted to point out, if any of you happen to catch my suction pressure in this was quite low, okay? And if you looked at the saturation temperatures, the saturation temperature was really low too. Typically, if those boxes are, they're typically designed for about a 10-degree evaporator TD. And that's the difference between the return air and the saturation temperature of the refrigerant, okay? I think this one was running something like almost a 20 or a 30-degree TD, okay? What happens a lot of times, especially with cold zone equipment, is I tend to notice that the equipment is oversized. So in this situation, they had an evaporator that was sized for the load in the box, but the condensing unit was almost a ton bigger. So they had like a 3 horsepower condensing unit running that evaporator, and it was basically oversized, causing us to run lower suction pressures, okay? And that's why we had such a low suction pressure on that unit. And that, you know, sometimes you got to learn how to diagnose with that kind of stuff. You can't always go in there with a mentality of this system should be working like this. Yes, you know, you do have those things in mind, but then you also have to be able to look and notice trends too. And I notice that whenever I'm working with cold zone or Russell equipment, the condensing units tend to be slightly oversized. Also on cold zone refrigeration racks, I notice that a lot of times too, that we run lower head pressure because they tend to oversize the rack condensers. just something, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, depending on how much oversized it is. So, you know, you just got to kind of notice trends and just kind of try to remember things, and it helps you. I've always in my head, whenever I'm working on anything cold zone, I always accept the fact that my head pressure might be a little bit low, my suction pressure might be a little bit low, and it's just one of those things. Okay. So, that's pretty much it on this one. Like I said, we already replaced the equipment, you know, and everything else was going good. I got the customer operating that day by just adjusting the low pressure control, you know, and that's it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos. Do me a favor, leave me some feedback down in the comments, and, you know, let me know. Do you see something that I did wrong? I'm always looking for feedback. So give me information. Let me know what you think. Okay. Until next time. Okay.